So, welcome everybody to this conversation about reviewing and releasing the year. Here we are, just a couple of weeks away from the end of 2022. It's a perfect moment for this conversation. Before we get started or even introduce ourselves, I would love to just begin by taking a few minutes to get grounded before we talk with each other. So, Tessa, would you be willing to lead us in a brief grounding meditation?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for gathering us here, Hannah. So wherever you are, just begin to settle. If you need to change your posture, maybe finding extra cozy blankets or extra pillows to support the body, gather them now so that you can be as comfortable as possible. And if it feels right, letting the eyes gently begin to shift closed. And just notice what it feels like to be here right now. Is there any excitement, agitation, any discomfort, or anywhere that feels really pleasant? And without judging it or trying to change it, just feel into those maybe physical sensations, thoughts, emotions, and begin to explore that inner landscape. Just acknowledging what's present. And then beginning to shift towards the breath, just how you're breathing naturally. You don't need to control it or change it. Just watching the body being breathed without effort. Maybe with a few deeper, longer inhales and slower, softer exhales. Maybe shifting some of that tension, letting the shoulders drop a little, letting the face soften a bit. Letting go just a touch with the exhale. Allowing yourself to drop a little deeper into this moment. Maybe counting 3 more breaths just like that, letting go a little more with each one. And whenever that feels complete, maybe letting some wiggles come into the fingers, letting the head bow, and just blinking the eyes open. Maybe looking around the room for a moment and recentering before joining back here in this space.
Thank you, Tessa. That was lovely. Let's begin our conversation. So, I am Hannah Knapp. I'm the co founder of Within Meditation. I'm going to be facilitating this conversation. Tessa, why don't you share a little bit about yourself as a meditator and a meditation teacher?
Sure, thank you. Well, I'm Tessa. I'm now based in England with where my husband is from. So we've recently relocated here. And I approach meditation from a yogic background. So I started diving into this world through an asana practice, so through a movement practice. And kind of that immediately brought me into meditation within the physical movement, but then also diving deeper into the tradition and learning more about how yoga is meant to prepare the body for a seated practice. So I kind of naturally followed that progression. And then the last 5 years or so, I've really dove deeper into meditation and kind of let go of the physical elements a little bit more, and especially have focused a lot of my education on a yoga nidra style of teaching. So it's like a yogic sleep where it's a fully guided practice that uses a lot of relaxation techniques. So I like to incorporate that with a bit of mindfulness into my classes. And yeah, teaching now at Within.
Fantastic. Thanks, Tessa. And how about you,
Mhm.
Kelly?
Well, I started this journey with meditation in regards to my anxiety that I have. And I've been meditating maybe for about 5 or 6 years, but it wasn't until COVID, when anxiety, swept the nation, I decided to take my practice further and attend the Chopra Center, because I obviously was under an enormous amount of stress and anxiety. I was very fearful for my life. Obviously, I had the catastrophic thinking, we're all going to die. And so I thought that, okay, I'll go to meditation school. This is what I need. I have an everyday regular practice. I just need to take it a step further so I can not lean on medication. I'm not a medical healthcare provider. I'm not saying that medication is bad. It's just something that I personally didn't want to heavily lean on. And I went to the Chopra Center, and here I am now teaching. I just have a passion again for helping those who go through severe stress and anxiety, because I know what that's like firsthand. So here I am, and I'm very grateful to be here with you lovely ladies. It's nice to be around powerful women that are really just trying to change the community. I find that awesome. So I'm very grateful to be here today.
Thank you, Kelly. How about you, Desiree?
Yeah, and forgive me, I'm taking a cough drop. This is part of equanimity. I'm getting over a cold, and the cough always comes during Zoom calls. So I actually have this ready to go right next to me, my cough drops. But yeah, I'm so happy to be part of this conversation. I also got into meditation mainly because of my anxiety. I'll say it's like almost 15 years ago. And that was the initial pathway. But when I did my first 10-day Vipassana retreat, that's when I saw the richness of the tradition. It's not about, or it's not just about settling the mind. It's really about going inwards and seeing the truth of everything's always changing, the truth of the suffering that comes from clinging and aversion. And I think there's also a whole world of heart opening practices. And that's what I've started to explore more recently. It's not just about dealing with the hard times. It's also, how do you open yourself up to joy and happiness and love, no matter what? And so that's been really a really exciting discovery for me, and has helped me deepen my practice. And yet the equanimity piece has also been really, really important, as Kelly was saying, for me, definitely over the past few years as well, through the ups and downs of life and COVID and world events and family. So I'm just super grateful to this tradition for giving me so much in so many different areas.
Thank you, Desiree. I'm so grateful to have the three of you here for this conversation, um, for about reviewing and releasing the year. And that it touches on a lot of what the three of you have already mentioned, I think. We'll see what happens as we chat about it. But what I would love to start with is this whole idea of what happens as we get close to the end of the year. Like it's just another day, right? This shouldn't create a one story we could have is it's just another day. We shouldn't be, treating it any differently. But there's something really monumental about the changing of the year, and that can create all kinds of feelings inside us. And so I would love to hear, um, let's chat a bit about what it is that comes up towards the end of the year, and ideas that you have about how to work with that. And Desiree, let's have you start us off.
Yeah, sure. So I think there's a few things happening at the end of the year, and I'm seeing this with my coaching clients. I think there's this rush. So I would say this rush is probably ending this week as people are about to go on vacation. So there's this mad rush, intensity, getting through that. And then there's this slowness that's starting to happen. So the slowness that is giving people space to think about, whoa, what just happened this past year? What do I want? What do I want to release? What I want to bring in? And they might not have had that time to reflect before. So I think it's the contrast of the rush, 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 and then the slowness that is giving people this time to say, wait, I've been rushing, I've been going forward. What is it? What just happened? What happened in this past year? I think it's also a time with a lot of expectations. I think a lot of people have expectations around the holidays and what that'll look like. There's a lot of pressures and demands. So I think that also causes people to rethink, what am I doing? Am I doing things for me? Am I doing things for other people? You know, is this expectation that holidays are always going to be cheerful, even a reality? And just questioning the norms, because everyone I talk to has something going on right now that is not cheerful. So I think it's this very unique time where you come face to face, like reality versus expectations, and have to really think about that. And then you have this huge contrast between go, 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 and then everything's slowing down and shutting down. And so you're getting this time to really think about, what am I doing and what do I want?
Yeah, I think I'd add to that too on a deeper level. Like, what am I doing with my life, right? Just like another year has ended, and what am I doing here? Am I reaching my goals? Am I making the progress that I want to? Am I having these growth spurts that I'm looking for? And I think a lot of the anxiety, at least for me, comes with realizing my life is ending, like one day at a time, 1 year at a time, and kind of that being faced with our own mortality and how I want to spend my time, this precious gift of a human experience, and realizing that another year has ended, which is one less year that I have on this planet. So I think for me, at least, that brings up a lot of unsettledness, a lot of fear, a lot of expectations of like, I should be further along, I should have already gotten this done, I should be reaching, I'm going to be 35. Oh my gosh, now life is over. So kind of, like you said, racing ahead almost to the end. So I think that just brings up a lot for a lot of people, because it is such a big ending that we get. And then having that time to like pause and reflect can be a little bit scary too, because we have this time to kind of ruminate and dive into, like you were saying, Kelly, that catastrophic thinking of like, it's all over now what, which is a little bit dramatic, but I do think at an existential level that is what a lot of us are facing too at this time.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of you. I think that, it's the end of the year, and also what sometimes could make it also intensify is obviously everyone around you is going through thinking like, oh my God, it's the end of the year, it's the end of the year. Businesses online, they're all talking about it's the end of the year, start something new, it's the end of the year, what are you going to do? So let's say that the end of the year always came obviously at the end of the year every year, and maybe everyone wasn't so vocal about it. I sometimes wonder, like, maybe it wouldn't feel so intense because we know that everyone isn't talking about it, and there's not so much force being put out to, hey, like, imagine if you pick up your phone right now, if you went to social media or a website, it's probably likely that these websites or platforms are talking about the end of the year. So it's just like a constant reminder and a constant refresh, like, hey, it's the end of the year, you need to think about it. But I definitely agree with both of you. And yeah, I find it similar, kind of like, I don't know how you guys feel around your birthday, if you're excited or if you kind of compare what you've done since your last birthday, and if you're in the place that you want to be. So I agree with both. people.
Yeah, but one thing I'm hearing that I honestly don't experience, so I'm kind of curious to hear more about it, is this like dread and anxiety and fear around the end of the year and having to reflect and did I reach my goals? And I don't feel like I think it's kind of exciting to reflect on the past year. And I wonder like what do you think is causing that like dread for people of like, oh no, I have to sit down and reflect on the past year? Because I always see it as like, wow, so cool. I get this space to think about what I want. And I've seen other people approach it that way too. So what do you think makes a difference?
I think something that could possibly make a difference, since your world is tailored around mindfulness, meditation, going within, doing a lot of self-help work that some people are not willing to do. Maybe your approach and how you feel about it isn't like everyone else, like the majority of everyone who feels that this is their time to reflect. This last month is their time to reflect. These last days in the new year are the time to reflect. But you as someone, and maybe Hannah or Tessa, if you guys would like to chime in, since you guys are people that spend time going within. For me, when the new year comes, I don't necessarily find it to be this big elaborate thing. I kind of look at it as another day, as year by year I've taken time to go within. I know that's what you've mentioned before, Desiree, taking time to go within. But I realize a lot of my friends and family, when I'm like, hey, would you like to try this meditation with me? Or would you like to have like these self-discovery conversations where we talk, open and very candidly? They're not necessarily willing to do so. So maybe that's why your approach, and maybe people who spend the time doing the work that you do, maybe they don't view it that way. But maybe Tessa, Hannah, you can lean in and give your thoughts and opinions.
Yeah, I think like you've said a lot now, Kelly, just our atmosphere, our environment affects us so much. So if we are spending a lot of time doing these practices, hopefully we'll have a little bit more peace and equanimity when we get to these transitional points. I do think that the majority of our culture is really stuck in that fight or flight, right? That sympathetic, where they don't know how to rest, they don't know how to slow down, and that it's a fearful state as well, right? We're like constantly on alert, we're highly vigilant, we're looking for problems, we're looking for what's wrong, what's going to go wrong. So I think that might be a big part of it for a lot of people too, is that that's just their status quo. They're always in that highly alert, stressed, chronic state of fear and of agitation, and this just kind of exacerbates it. So I think I recognize that in myself when I haven't been showing up, when I haven't been getting to my cushion, when I haven't been sleeping enough, when I've been shopping too much, the things that kind of come with this time of year, unfortunately. And I think we need to take extra time to balance it out, because there is that added external pressure, and the environment around us too is saying, you have so much to do, the year is ending. So we just get it like tenfold now. So if you don't know how to drop in and slow down and regulate yourself, I think it's just going to 10x what you're already experiencing.
And it sounds like if that's not a practice, it feels like one more thing you have to do. Like in addition to all the things, like now you have to create intentional time to reflect, and you haven't done it, and it's scary. It's kind of like when I've been procrastinating on working out, I'm like, oh no, when I go do that weight again, it's going to feel so hard. So yeah, I can see how not doing it and then suddenly having to do it, it's like another thing on the to-do list. It's scary.
One of the things that's coming up for me as we're talking about that is this idea of, can we shift it from the to-do list to an opportunity? And what I mean by that is, I love that all three of you, when we were talking about this conversation beforehand, brought up this idea of a year-end ritual. This idea of, and what I love about the ritual is that it's marking a place in time, it's marking a transition, and it's different from what we normally do. We have so little space for ritual in our typical daily lives. It's just not a part of how we live in 2022 for the most part. So I would love to hear um, any thoughts that the three of you have about what would be a way to mark this transition to from the end of the year into the next year. What are the elements of a ritual that you would create?
I actually wrote the blog post about this for within this month, so it's a whole very lengthy, it kind of looks longer than it actually is, but ritual that I do every year. Like I said, my birthday's on the solstice, so I love using that as a point. And I think the solstice and the equinox are just really nice, natural, cyclical times that we have throughout humanity that we've used as like ceremonial points. So I think it's a really nice time to take a little bit of space and go inward. So I like to try to list everything that I'm proud of myself for, like all the successes, all the wins, and really like fill the page with as many things as I can. Like we're fighting that negativity bias, right? So it takes a while to think about things that I'm really happy about and not get stuck on all the things that didn't really go the way I wanted to. So listing about and really getting into a space of like, yeah, I did some good stuff. Like, just feeling that sense of satisfaction and pride in myself, and then narrowing it down to, I like to do a top 10 from the year of things that I've learned or things that I've achieved or just ways that I've grown. And then I do think it's important to look at some things I've done wrong too, and some missteps I've had, or some things like that I had expectations about that didn't go the way I wanted to, and not spend as much time on that, because we can easily go into that shame spiral or that downer spiral. So just thinking of like a couple, just like 2 or 3 things of like, yeah, those were kind of biggies that I'd like to revisit, or I'd like to have a second go at. And then usually taking them into something that I've learned. And it's like, oh, actually, I'm really glad that happened because this came out of it. And I was able to shift my perspective, or able to connect with someone that I didn't plan on connecting with. So a lot of times the things that we're really hung up about, or at least for me, it's actually turned out to be something that worked out in my favor if I can zoom out and really think about it. So that's what I like to do, is make lists. I'm a big list writer and big into journaling as well. So that it usually comes down to writing for me.
I love that. Have you been doing that every year? And do you have your responses from the past few years?
Yeah. I've been journaling for like 8 years now, and I've done it every year since I've been journaling. So it is nice to like have that kind of capstone at the end. Mm-hmm.
So cool. For me, it's honestly been my annual Vipassana retreat. I usually do it during Christmas time. And so this is the first year in 6 years that I did it in November instead of December. So it's been cool. I'm creating my own ritual this year. And one thing I've been doing with my groups is actually, Tessa, very similar to yours, just slightly different. I have us like create a timeline of 2022. And so above the line, we're marking the things that we're proud of, like the joyful moments, the things we want to remember in chronological order. And then below the line, it's more maybe some of the lows and challenges. And we take a look and talk about our learnings. So what did we learn from that? So similarly to what you said, Tessa, I think with the lows, there can be something to learn there. And it feels, instead of applying shame, I think it's a great time for self-compassion. If it was something out of your control, or forgiveness if it was in your control, but you made a mistake, or maybe a takeaway that you had, something that some way your mind changed, and then celebrating the joys, which I think is also really nice. A lot of people forget the things that have gone well in the beginning of the year or middle of the year. So we do the learnings based off of the timeline, what we want to start, stop, and continue. So thinking about like what's going well, what do we want to stop, and what do we want to start, which can be a very fun practice because it's generative. Like, okay, like this year was this year, but what do I want to bring into 2023? Who do I want to be in 2023? And I think who we are is largely a product of our day-to-day mindsets and behaviors. And then I ask, what are you optimistic about, and what's a question you still have that would be game changing for 2023? So I think it takes the pressure off, because even the lows are something that contribute to your learning. And it's about, yes, reviewing 2022, but also looking forward to 2023. Like, we are still here, there is still time, and every day is a new day. And I think, again, that takes the pressure off, like having achieved everything by today, by December 31st, 2022.
I definitely can say that I didn't call it a timeline, but I guess I've been doing a timeline this whole time. That's definitely my ritual throughout the years. I pretty much just get a sheet of paper. I'm also a journaler as well. I love writing letters. I write, I don't know, hundreds of letters every year, and no one really writes me back. I got 3 letters back this year, but I'm grateful for those 3 letters. But needless to say, I pretty much just write down where I was in January, the beginning of the year, and where I'm currently at, depending on where I do it in December. And I kind of just try my best to feel grateful for the experiences that I've experienced, especially if they were a little bit uncomfortable, really trying to lean into the discomfort if there's discomfort in the experience, because I know that there's some growth there. And then also, like both of you said, just kind of celebrate my wins. Earlier this year, I had just graduated from the Chopra Center for meditation school. And I think it was last week, I'm sitting there, I'm on my computer, and I'm like, gosh, like, how can I continue to grow? How can I continue to share my practice and meet more people who want to live this way, and enjoy going within. And it dawned on me, like, wow, Kelly, like, you graduated from school, you found a great community to be a part of. And instead of being hard on myself in that moment, because I felt like I started to be a little hard on myself and say, okay, you have to try better and you have to go harder, I realized, like, wow, I graduated from school, I have a place, I have a community, and maybe I should have some more compassion and just celebrate myself, right? And I think that's the last thing. My family, we are Puerto Rican, and we always like to celebrate an accomplishment or celebrate someone's life. And every year for New Year's, even though we're not necessarily celebrating maybe our mistakes, but we're celebrating life. So I feel that just journaling, having my timeline, and just kind of celebrating life, and just like we always try our best, being present in the moment and celebrating the time with loved ones is definitely my ritual that I would like to stick to. So.
I love it. I love that the through one of the through lines that I'm hearing in what you all are saying is that one of the keys is both the reviewing and the releasing. That, like, really looking back and really being real with yourself about, like, what did I forget to celebrate or want to celebrate again? What did I learn? What didn't go well? What do I want to learn from? And then choosing, okay, well, the reason I do this ritual is so that then I can release it and say, okay, that was 2022. Now let's move on to 2023. And thinking about what we were saying earlier about why is this time of year so challenging. One of the thoughts that I'm having as we're talking about this is that we don't have a lot of practice with the releasing part. We have a fair amount of practice, especially if we work in a job where people work with each other. You have annual reviews, you have all this stuff where you look back and you talk about, like, we've got a fair framework for that, but to actually release it and send and let go of that energy and those stories and choose, this is what I'm going to take forward with me. It's super powerful to give yourself the space to do that. One question that I have related to that is, how would you say you could go about releasing the things, especially the things that you wish had gone differently, especially the things that you need to exercise that forgiveness, that self-compassion for? Um, is there anything that any of you would like to elaborate a bit about, the kinds of things that it might be wise to release, or how you would go about releasing them?
Mhm. I think writing it down for me is just really helpful to like, it's almost like putting it in a history book. It's like, okay, it happened. And just the fact that I've written it down gets it out of my mind, which is really helpful, because sometimes I'm just ruminating, I'm going over the conversation, I'm, planning out my my part of it differently. So just by putting it on paper, it's like, okay, it's down. And then if I really am struggling with it, I like to burn the paper, just light it on fire and literally like watch it dissolve and disintegrate. And that's been really cathartic, just as a way of getting it out of my body and out of my mind and into something physical that then can literally turn and transform into dust. But I'd love to hear more about this. This is something I struggle with too. So what do you guys do?
Yeah, I'm going to give a response that I don't know actually answer this question, but I think there's too much pressure to release things, and we don't get to control when we release things. So I had a really bad breakup earlier this year, and I kept like trying to, okay, like I processed it. I'm no longer blaming myself. I'm releasing it. But like, you can't just choose when you release something. It took me a good 5-6 months to fully get over it. And so I'm over it now, but say the breakup had happened last month, I wouldn't want to pressure myself to release something I'm not ready to release. So I think part of that is being comfortable with having those emotions. We can't rush the process of grieving, of getting over someone, of any of these things. So I would say one way to release it is releasing the expectation that you're going to release that emotion and get over it just because it's the new year.
I heavily weigh on that, Desiree, and I feel we don't have control of when something will be released. But what I do, if I'm carrying something or there's something that I no longer want to feel, even though I know it won't go away right away, I kind of start leaning in and asking my body, like, okay, what do you need right now? And the answer is always different. Sometimes I need like a hot bath or something. Sometimes I need to write it down, like you mentioned, Tessa. Sometimes I just need to put salsa music on and dance for an hour with my headphones on. And I feel like I know that it might not be released right away. It might take time, like you mentioned, Desiree, but I do know that maybe for that moment, once I do whatever my body is asking, and it has like a tiny release, I guess, I feel like it's released enough to get me to continue on until I come to another moment where I need to have some sort of ritual, like you said, Hannah, where I need to have another micro release. So I agree with both of you. Tessa, I do know some things that I could write it down, dance, get into the shower or bath, or sit, breathe, and it's gone. But other things like a breakup or a loss of someone special, I do agree with you also, Desiree, like, okay, you can't really pick and choose when it's no, but you can implement certain things in your life to help. So I agree with both.
I love this idea of a micro release, because usually when I think about releasing, it's like releasing something big and releasing it for good. But it's like, actually, you can just release for the moment, like dance, go for a run, do some jumping jacks, like do some art. And that can be a great way to release too. Does it mean that it's released forever? No, but it doesn't have to be. I really like that. I really, really like that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, me too. And I really resonate with what you're saying too, both of you, that it just takes, some things just take time, like more time than we give it credit for. And some things will never be released. Like I'm still sitting with the death of a really close friend from 2.5 years ago. And I still like find, like, I'm gonna get teary now. I still find it like coming up in my body, especially where it's just like, oh, that's still there. Okay. I'm still processing. I'm still sitting with it. And I think we're a lot of times told like to shift to the positive, just be happy, just let it go, just, move into that kind of that bypassing of our discomfort, of the harder feelings of, I don't want to say negative because I don't think they're negative. I think they're just harder. I think they're challenging. And oftentimes we want to be with the easy ones. We want to be with the ones that feel nice. And we're not willing to just be sad when we need to be sad, or to dance when we need to dance, and just to listen to those intuitive hits. That's really wise counsel. I love that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more from each of you about your thoughts on how do you be well with those uncomfortable emotions? Um, and we've just been touching on, like you were saying, Kelly, asking yourself, what do you need right now, and giving yourself that, whatever it may be. But I'd love to hear more thoughts you may have about, given that it's we need to be able to be comfortable with discomfort because there's lots of it in life, and just pushing it away doesn't make it go away, it makes it worse. um, what can we do to be with those emotions that are really tough to be with?
How I personally am comfortable with discomfort is I don't get mad at myself for feeling how I feel. Tessa just mentioned she had lost someone, and I felt discomfort. But even though to anyone watching this, or you guys here sitting with me, that I'm not going to say I'm uncomfortable, but some emotions have come to me. Um, I'm okay. I'm not embarrassed. And I think that's my first step is I don't have to be ashamed or embarrassed about feeling certain things. You can accept them. And then after I accept them, no matter where I am, I could be this way in the grocery store, right? But I'm not going to be hard on myself. People might not understand. People might think you're crazy, but I love myself so much that I know that my intention isn't to cause harm or bother anyone. So I think that's my first step is I'm okay. If I'm uncomfortable, it's okay to be uncomfortable because I'm not doing anything wrong. And I think the second step is I think a lot of people struggle with this. And when I was working in corporate America, one of the interview questions that I always felt that I got was, what is your biggest weakness? And a lot of people that I know, they had a hard time reaching out for help. And I think that's my next step is once I understand that I'm feeling something, I'm uncomfortable, and I know it's okay to feel uncomfortable because I know we all go through very uncomfortable things. I reach out for help. I call my mom, I call a close friend, and I know that they're going to be there for me just like I'm there for them. So I think that is really important, is reaching out for help and knowing that being uncomfortable is okay and having discomfort is okay. And realizing that there are people out here, our loved ones, that I'm not saying it's their job, but that's why we call them loved ones, because maybe the sound of their voice, maybe something that they say will just uplift. So I would say that is how I would respond to that is it's okay to be uncomfortable and it's okay to reach out for help. I think reaching out for help is very important.
I appreciate you sharing that, Kelly. And I know you're going through a lot right now, and it's okay to cry on a Zoom when you're feeling those emotions. Like, we're human. The emotions don't leave just because we're on a Zoom. And so I appreciate you feeling comfortable just expressing where you're at and not having to hide or do anything like that. I think for me, it's been a learning of accepting emotions too. I think the more I accept difficult emotions and let myself feel them, the more spacious I can be. And that really helps holding difficult emotions. I think one thing, and I really hesitate to share this because I don't want this to be confused with look on the positive side, but one thing that I felt on a physical level during the retreat, my latest retreat, when your body's in so much pain, just noticing, yes, my back hurts, my knees hurt, my hips hurt, but oh, my hands don't hurt. Oh, my feet don't hurt. Oh, my face doesn't hurt. And so one thing I've been doing is when I'm experiencing a lot of pain in an aspect of my life, I also acknowledge the parts of my life that I'm not feeling pain in, because it can be really easy to forget those parts. So that's a practice that I've been doing and trying to cultivate even more since my latest retreat, is fully acknowledging the difficulty in my life. But then also, like, as I hold this difficulty, what is not difficult in my life? And it could be the very subtle things. Just like the sensation in my hands, it could just be like my morning coffee doesn't feel difficult, it feels great. So just noticing those little things makes it so that I can hold the heavier things a little bit easier. Just like on the retreat, once I started noticing like the easier parts, the retreat became the easiest retreat I've ever had. Same amount of pain as always, but just a shift in mindset. And so I'm really trying to embody that right now.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you both for sharing your experiences, and right now, especially the present. That's beautiful. What I hear a lot is that we all have a lot of practice doing this as well. And that's kind of what I was going to circle back to, is it takes practice. I don't think it's something that we're naturally gifted with, and especially the way we've been raised. Most of our wonderful parents try to shelter us from as much harm as they can, which is beautiful, but also can be hard when you get to the real world and things aren't sheltered. So I think it takes practice. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be uncomfortable for a long time, and it probably will always be uncomfortable, because if it's comfortable, then it's not uncomfortable, right? So I think we're just able to lean into it and just get a little better each time, just like to develop those neural pathways that help us to understand, like, this is temporary, there's good here, this is hard, it will pass. We get more experienced as we navigate these things more regularly and just get more used to it. That's yes. So that's the first part. And the second part you kind of touched on, Desiree, is I've found a lot of wisdom from physical discomfort to help me deal with emotional discomfort. So sitting in an uncomfortable position, or like ice baths are being really popular right now, or like yin yoga has been really helpful for me, of like, when you're in that physical strain, staying and obviously listening to your body and not hurting yourself, but also realizing when it's just your mind, and that you can actually do more, you can stay longer, you can sit with that uncomfortable feeling without needing to go back to the comfort zone right away. So that kind of can help us to just begin to push that edge so that we can get a little bit more at ease with discomfort over time. That's what's been my experience, at least with physical discomfort. That just kind of has helped to train my mind to be like, oh, wait, I can do this. I can do it a little more. I can find things that don't hurt. I can find ways out of this in a balanced way, rather than just being so overwhelmed with what I don't want to feel.
I'm really glad you brought up the practice piece, because everything that we're saying, like, for me, has been years.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I say something and a friend's like, oh, but you teach meditation, so like, that's why I'm like, I got into meditation because I was so stressed out. Most meditation teachers got into it because they were so stressed out, or there's something leading them to do 10-day retreats where they're suffering for 10 days. And so I guess I say, it's not that we have some innate ability. We definitely don't. I think a lot of us are actually starting behind some people, and we have to work extra hard to deal with these emotions. And so all of that to say, like, it's possible for everyone with practice to get to the point that we're talking about. And it's still a work in progress for me. So I don't want to pretend I'm enlightened or I've finished the path. It's just practice.
As you say that, Desiree, something that's coming up for me is that we we practice, especially in meditation, when it's not a crisis. Like we practice when actually everything's fine. We put ourselves in those difficult physical situations, or whatever element it is. Even just of having to sit still is sometimes torture, whether or not our bodies are crying out because of the position we're in. And that's so helpful too, to practice being with discomfort when actually everything is fine. So that then when the emotional things come up, when it feels like nothing's fine, you have that muscle memory of, oh wait, I know something that can help me with this moment, help me be with the discomfort and move through it. Which is why meditation practice became so unbelievably popular during COVID, because people realized, like I need to keep practicing this in order to meet the crisis that we're all in on a daily basis. Well, which is, of course, like we're saying, of course, we advocate for practice because that's what's helped us. But I think that it helps a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think it's, I think about, and this is something someone told me that really stuck with me. You don't learn how to surf when there's a tsunami. You wait for those like calm waters. But a lot of people, it's like we try out meditation when it's like the worst time in our lives, and obviously it's going to be harder. So if we can get that muscle memory in during more calm times, when we don't feel like we need it, right? I think it can serve us when there is something more major going on.
Fantastic. I'm looking at the time and realizing that we just have a few minutes left, enough time to explore in one more direction, or maybe two. The question that I would love to put to you all is, as you are looking back at 2022 and you're looking ahead to 2023, what would you like to share about either a particular learning that you had, or a particular joy you want to celebrate, something from 2022, and either what you're looking forward to in 2023, or like you were saying earlier, Desiree, that question of what's a question you have for 2023. I would love to hear from whichever one of you would like to kick us off.
I can go. And my learnings are similar to or related to my question. My question is, in what ways am I going to grow in 2023? And the reason I asked that is this year was a crazy, crazy year. I went through a breakup I didn't expect. I found myself not having a place in San Francisco for 5 months because I had sublet it, thinking I was going to be in a relationship, and then having to figure out what to do. And that's when I had also left my full-time job to start my coaching business. So there was a lot happening at once. And I grew so much. And if you had asked me at that moment, I would have said, this is a nightmare. And it was. It honestly was at times. But I would never, ever take it back. I would never take it back, because I would not have seen how strong I am. I wouldn't have seen the support of so many friends, like people giving me their apartment in New York for like dirt cheap at a time when rent is like sky high. Friends sending me, and actually, Kelly, I also love sending letters, and friends sending me letters. And it was just so amazing. And I would not have known at the time, like the experiences I would have because of the crises I was having, and B, all the ways that I would grow. I think some learnings from that is that I learned every year, but I feel like I have to relearn trusting my gut, knowing that everything's changing. So I have no idea if something that feels bad today is actually going to be the best thing ever for me. And I think opening up to the positive, something I wasn't expecting with this practice, and always saying everything is impermanent, everything's impermanent. I think that helps with the negative, just knowing it's impermanent. but I wasn't appreciating the positive because I'm like, oh, but that's impermanent. And I think I'm realizing I've been discounting the positive. And so one thing for me that I learned is I want to fully appreciate the positive, even if it's an impermanent, it's here today. So those were some things that I learned. And I'm just curious how I'm going to grow in 2023. And who knows, like there will be other things that I might deem a catastrophe that I might later be like, whoa, if that hadn't happened, X, Y, or Z wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I think I had a similar year, no breakups, but kind of catastrophe after just things not going to plan and moving across the world, and yeah, having some family things crop up at the worst possible times. It's been a wild one. And I think I've, like, looking back, I've slowed down so much. Like, I thought I was pretty slow. I'm a relaxation like specialist. So I thought I was already in a pretty low gear, but there's been a lot of friction with being so slow, with getting established in a new place. I completely underestimated how much effort and time it would take to like find my footing here. And I've just had to really take my hands off the wheel, like just how much I thought I had. I mean, I know I don't really have control, but yeah, I kind of do have a little bit of control, like it's gone. So just like having no control at all has been really a huge teacher of like just letting things be and knowing that everything is moving at the pace that it's moving. End of story. There's nothing I can do to make it move any faster. I could probably slow it down a little bit more, but I don't need to. So leaning into this new speed has been really new and nice for me. And actually looking into 2023, I'm always tempted with the clean slate and, getting a fresh start. And this year it's like, this is a fresh start for me to stay at this pace, to not try to ramp things up, to not try to start something new, but to just be at this little slow and steady crawl that I'm at, which is very uncomfortable for me. So I don't know what the question is, but I think, how can I lean into that more? Like, how can I release control more? How can I just trust more? Because I don't have a lot that I can do about it. So how can I just let things be even more? So that's where I'm trying to place my energy as I roll into it the next few weeks.
I would say for me, and again, Hannah, the question is, what's my question for 2023? And then what am I reflecting on from 2022? Is that, so I would say for me, what I've reflected on for 2022 overall is that sometimes, I'll make all these plans, make all these ideas, have this linear plan of this is how everything is gonna go, and it's not how it goes at all. And I think for me, for 2022 is realizing that I literally, and no one knows what is going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And I know I say it all the time, and I know I touch on it in class all the time, but truly, truly just grasping that and holding on to that, I truly, and no one knows what's going to happen. And since I don't know that, no one knows, no one can predict the future. I really just, for 2022, take away that I don't know, and it's okay that I don't know. For 2023, my question that I look forward to is, will I be able to, arms wide open, walk into this unknown place and just truly be comfortable, even though I know that there will be uncomfortable moments? Will I just be able to, will I be okay? That's my 2023. Will I be okay in this uncomfortable, unknown place? That's my 2023 question that I have for myself. So there you go.
Hmm. Thank you all. One of the things that really strikes me about what each of you shared, obviously very different journeys and different things that you're moving into the new year with, but that there's so much about, at the heart of it, about acceptance, about accepting what's happened, what is that it doesn't go to plan, that you can't control, what, all of those things, and how much is possible from that place of acceptance. Like when we stop resisting that things are the way that they are, that they've worked out the way that they have, that then we release so much energy in the direction of what could be, in the direction of possibility. I love that. It's a beautiful energy to take with us into a new year. I would love to close the conversation just by inviting each of you to share when you teach at Within, so that people can come to your classes. So if you can share when you teach and the general idea in the class that you'll be teaching. Let's start with you, Tessa.
Yeah, thank you. My class is moving to noon Pacific, which I'm looking forward to, and we'll be shifting into a yoga nidra style class. So the title I'm playing with is Lie Down to Wake Up. So exploring the depths of our consciousness through a guided relaxation state and being able to, like, I think it's my mantra today, just to let go a little bit more and sink into ourselves deeper.
I teach Mondays at 12. Again, my class is changing from Living in Joy to Meditation for Anxiety. And pretty much is a 30-minute guided mindfulness meditation where we're really just focusing on our breath and really being present, and really just I'll be incorporating some anxiety techniques that I do for myself. When you reached out to me, Hannah, and you were like, oh, you can change your class, I was thinking, okay, Kelly, what truly should I teach in class, or what are the things that I should bring up? And anxiety was it. I told you when you interviewed me that anxiety was the reason why I started my practice, and I'm really excited to share what's next. Mondays at 12. Thank you.
And I am Thursdays, 8:30 a.m. Pacific. So bright and early morning meditation. And it's been living with intention. So really thinking about our values and how we're putting that into practice. And in the new year, it's going to be incorporating the 4 Brahma Viharas. So loving kindness, sympathetic joy, equanimity, and compassion, and how we can use those qualities to open up the heart to gladness and joy and love, but also open up the heart to some of the difficult states and how we can use wisdom to hold and overcome them.
Fantastic. I'm so so excited, 3 of you continuing teaching with us in the new year. And then we also have a couple of special events coming up in the new year. One is there's going to be a New Year's Day class for setting intentions, moving into the new year with new year energy. And Devin Pipers is going to be teaching that on January 1st. And then she's also teaching a 6-week intensive course on meditation techniques, so that if you're interested in building your personal meditation practice, you can spend 1 week on each of 5 different specific techniques, and then a 6th week to sort of bring it all together to really get it down of a specific technique that you can then use to inform your own practice. And finally, we're going to have a couple of retreats in February, still a little ways away, but just I know people love to plan ahead for those bigger events. We're going to have a day-long retreat in the San Francisco Bay Area. And then we're also going to have a multi-day retreat, an almost week-long retreat that Devin Pipers is leading in Mexico. It's our first international retreat. But it's, as you've talked about, Desiree, being able to go away for longer just gives you more opportunities to go deeper, let go more, learn more. So we're really excited to do that. our first much longer retreat. So I hope people will join us at all those events and at your classes. Thank you again so much for being a part of this conversation and
Mhm.
helping us think about how and why you and release the year. I really appreciate having you in the room.